September 19, 1944. Haraucourt, France. 08:20 hours. Oberst Hans Schmidt, 42, commander of 113th Panzer Brigade, studied intelligence reports in disbelief. American tank strength in 3rd Army Sector. Estimated 4,500 M4 Sherman tanks. His own brigade had 88 Panther tanks, the finest tank Germany produced. Superior armor, superior gun, superior engineering. Schmidt's intelligence officer had circled a number. Total Sherman production through August 1944, approximately 45,000 units. The officer added a note in the margin. This cannot be accurate. American propaganda. But Schmidt knew better. He'd fought Sherman since Normandy. Every time his Panthers destroyed 510 appeared. Every village liberated revealed more Shermans. Maintenance depots with hundreds awaiting repair. Replacement depots with hundreds more waiting for crews. German tank designers laughed at the Sherman. Thin armor, adequate gun, simple design. Compared to the technical marvel that was the Panther, the Sherman was crude, inferior. A quantity over quality, American solution. What German High Command didn't understand was that quantity becomes quality when you produce 49,234 tanks. What happened at Haraucourt would demonstrate that numbers matter. Reliability matters, and laughing at your enemy's production capacity is the fastest way to lose a war. By September 1944, Germany's armored forces faced a crisis, not from lack of quality. From lack of numbers, the Panther tank was indeed superior to the Sherman on paper. Thicker frontal armor, more powerful 75mm L-70 gun, better optics. German engineering at its finest. But Germany produced approximately 6,000 Panthers during the entire war. America produced that many Shermans in 3 months. By D-Day, June 6, 1944, Allied forces had already manufactured over 40,000 Sherman tanks. More Shermans existed than all German tank types combined. The mathematics were brutal. Tiger I production, 1,347 tanks total. Tiger II production, 492 tanks. Panther production, 6,000 tanks total for Germany's best armor. Approximately 7,800 heavy and medium tanks. America built that many Shermans between January and May 1944 alone. German tank crews who encountered Shermans early in the war felt confident. Panzer IVs could handle Shermans at reasonable ranges. Panthers could destroy Shermans from distances where Sherman guns couldn't penetrate Panther frontal armor. Individual tank versus individual tank, German armor often had the advantage. But warfare isn't fought tank versus tank. It's fought army versus army, industry versus industry, and American industry had decided to win through overwhelming production. The Sherman design prioritized different values than German tanks, not maximum armor or biggest gun. Instead, reliability, ease of production, standardization, maintainability. Every Sherman used the same basic chassis. Crews trained on one Sherman could operate any Sherman. Parts were interchangeable. Engines ran 300 to 400 hours between major maintenance. Transmissions didn't break after 150 kilometers like early Panthers. German engineers examining captured Shermans were surprised by the simplicity. Welded hull construction instead of precision-machined plates. Commercial automotive components adapted for military use. Mass production techniques throughout. One German engineer's report from late 1943 noted, "The American Sherman sacrifices technical perfection for production speed. This approach is beneath German standards." That engineer missed the point entirely. Technical perfection doesn't win wars if you can't field enough weapons. Germany's technically perfect Panthers spent 50% of their operational time in maintenance. Sherman spent 10%. When your army needs tanks on the front line, reliability matters more than perfection. The production numbers told the story. Ford's tank arsenal in Michigan built 1,690 Shermans from May 1942 to September 1943. Chrysler's Detroit tank arsenal built 18,000 Shermans. Fisher Body Grand Blanc built 11,352. Pacific Car and Foundry built 926. Baldwin Locomotive Works built 1,220. Lima Locomotive Works built 1,645. Federal Machine and Welder Company built 540. Pressed Steel Car Company built 8,147. American Locomotive Company built 2,150. Pullman Standard built 689. Ford Motor Company built 1,690 additional units at their River Rouge plant. 10 manufacturers, coordinated production, standardized designs, all producing identical Sherman tanks that could be serviced anywhere, crewed by anyone trained on the type, supplied with parts from centralized depots. Germany tried similar mass production but never achieved American scale. Daimler-Benz, MAN, MNH, and Henschel all built Panthers, but each factory used slightly different production methods. Parts weren't always interchangeable. A transmission from Daimler-Benz didn't necessarily fit a man-built Panther. This complicated logistics enormously. The first time German tank crews in Normandy encountered the full scale of American armor, reality shattered doctrine. Panzer Lehr Division, one of Germany's elite armored units, entered Normandy with 183 tanks on June 6. By July 1, fewer than 40 remained operational. American replacements kept arriving. German replacements didn't exist. Oberst Otto Carius, German tank ace with over 150 confirmed kills, wrote in his memoir about facing Sherman formations. Individual Shermans were manageable, but they never came individually. They came in groups of 10, 20, 30. Destroy 5 and 10 more appeared. The Americans treated tanks like ammunition, expendable, replaceable. That strategic mindset reflected production capacity. Germany couldn't afford to expend tanks. Each Panther represented months of production, skilled labor, precious resources. Losing a Panther was a strategic setback. America could lose 100 Shermans in a week and replace them all by next week. Different war, different mathematics. By mid-1944, American armor outnumbered German armor in every sector by ratios that made traditional tank tactics obsolete. At Aracourt in September 1944, 4th Armored Division faced 5th Panzer Army. American strength, 186 Sherman tanks. German strength, approximately 350 Panther and Panzer IV tanks. On paper, favoring Germany. The battle lasted from September 18th to September 29th. American losses: 41 medium tanks, 7 light tanks. German losses: 200 tanks and assault guns destroyed or damaged beyond recovery. The kill ratio was devastating, not because Sherman suddenly became superior, because American tactics used numbers and reliability to overwhelm German quality. Shermans could afford to maneuver aggressively. Get hit? Crew bails out. Tank is towed to maintenance, repaired in days, or simply replaced from reserves. German tank crews couldn't afford aggressive tactics. Lose a Panther and it might not be replaced for months. This psychological difference affected battlefield behavior. The upgraded Sherman with 76mm M1 gun arrived in theater by summer 1944. This version could penetrate Panther side armor at reasonable ranges. Not perfect, but adequate. And adequate becomes excellent when you have 10,000 of them versus 500 Panthers. German intelligence continuously underestimated American production. Reports from late 1943 estimated American tank production at perhaps 2,000 per month. Actual production averaged 2,000 Shermans per month just from the top 3 factories. Total American tank production, including all types, exceeded 3,000 per month in 1944. The strategic impact extended beyond simple numbers. Every Sherman lost could be replaced within weeks. Every Sherman damaged could be repaired using parts shipped from massive supply depots. American logistics supported this. By late 1944, the European theater had Sherman parts depots in England, France, and Belgium. Turnaround time from damaged to repaired. Average 72 hours for moderate damage. German Panthers damaged in combat often sat immobilized for weeks awaiting parts. Transport from Germany faced Allied air attacks. Manufacturing prioritized new tanks over spare parts. Result: Germany's effective armored strength was perhaps 60% of paper strength. America's effective armored strength exceeded 90% of paper strength. The simplicity of Sherman maintenance mattered tactically. Field repairs could be done by unit mechanics. Engine swap, approximately 4 hours with experienced crew. Transmission replacement, 6 hours. German Panther engine replacement required specialized equipment, took 16 to 24 hours, and often required factory-level expertise. This meant Sherman units maintained higher operational readiness. A battalion of 50 Shermans might have 47 operational at any given time. A German battalion of 50 Panthers might have 30 operational. The rest sat awaiting maintenance, parts, or transport to rear area facilities. General George Patton understood these numbers instinctively. His Third Army tactics emphasized aggressive movement, accepting losses, relying on replacement flow. His operations staff tracked Sherman availability daily. As long as replacements exceeded losses, keep attacking. Stop only when logistics couldn't keep pace. German commanders lacked this luxury. Each tank lost was a permanent reduction in combat power. They fought defensively, conserving strength, waiting for reinforcements that never came in sufficient numbers. By late 1944, German armored divisions operated at 30 to 40% authorized strength. American armored divisions consistently maintained 80 to 90% strength. The Sherman's design intentionally sacrificed individual tank performance for mass producibility. The M4A3 variant with Ford GAA V8 engine used commercially available components. The transmission was adapted from heavy trucks. Suspension used straightforward vertical volute springs. Nothing exotic, nothing requiring specialized manufacturing, contrast with the Panther. Its Maybach HL230 engine was purpose-built for tanks. Complex, expensive, required specialized tooling. The transmission was a 7-speed gearbox with steering mechanism integrated, requiring precision manufacturing throughout. Early versions failed catastrophically after minimal use. Later versions were more reliable but still maintenance-intensive. American tankers complained about Sherman armor and firepower throughout the war. Valid complaints. A Sherman crew facing a Panther at 1,500 meters had minimal chance of penetrating frontal armor. But American doctrine didn't emphasize long-range tank duels. Doctrine said, use numbers, maneuver, combined arms, infantry support, artillery, airstrikes. Overwhelm the enemy position, force them to relocate, hit their flanks. This worked because America could afford losses. Third Army lost approximately 1,400 Sherman tanks between August and December 1944. All replaced. Third Army maintained consistent offensive tempo. German forces opposing them lost approximately 2,200 tanks in the same period. Not all replaced. German combat power degraded monthly. The myth that 5 Shermans were needed to kill 1 Panther emerged from individual engagement stories. True occasionally, but statistically false. Detailed analysis of Normandy tank battles showed Sherman to Panther kill ratio of approximately 3.6 to 1 in Sherman's favor. How? Because German Panthers often fought outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and isolated from support. At Aracourt, the 4th Armored Division's after-action reports documented 281 German tanks destroyed or damaged versus 48 American tanks lost. Ratio: nearly 6 to 1 favoring Shermans, not from individual tank superiority. From superior numbers, better logistics, aggressive tactics enabled by knowing replacements existed. German veterans interviewed after the war often mentioned the psychological impact of American tank numbers. Destroyed 10 tanks, see 20 more next day. No matter how many you kill, more appear. This wears down morale faster than combat itself, especially when your own losses are irreplaceable. By March 1945, Germany had approximately 1,500 operational tanks on the Western Front. America and Britain had over 10,000. Eastern Front was worse for Germany. Soviets fielded approximately 15,000 tanks by war's end. Germany faced 25,000 Allied tanks with 2,000 of their own. The arithmetic had become absurd. German engineers who laughed at Sherman design in 1942 weren't laughing in a 1945. The crude American tank. they'd mocked had outlasted their technical marvels. Still running, still fighting, still being replaced faster than they could be destroyed. The final Sherman production numbers, 49,234 units of all M4 variants. This excludes M3 Lee Show Grant tanks, which added another 6,000 units. Just Shermans. Just one tank type. More than all German tank production combined from 1939 to 1945. Those 49,234 Shermans equipped American, British, Canadian, Free French, Polish, Soviet, and Chinese forces. Saw action in Europe, North Africa, Italy, Pacific, China. Some remained in service into the 1970s. The design derided as crude and simple proved so reliable, so maintainable, so practical, that dozens of nations kept using it decades after the war. Today, Sherman tanks sit in museums worldwide. Patton Museum at Fort Knox, Tank Museum at Bovington, Musée des Blindés at Saumur, Kubinka Tank Museum near Moscow. Almost every major military museum has at least one Sherman. Not because it was the best tank, because it was everywhere, because it won. There's a lesson here about quality versus quantity that extends beyond military hardware. German tanks were better engineered, better armor, better guns. On any technical specification chart, the Panther beats the Sherman. But wars aren't fought on specification charts. They're fought with logistics, industrial capacity, maintainability, crew training, replacement flow, and strategic vision. America built adequate tanks in overwhelming numbers. Germany built excellent tanks in inadequate numbers. Adequate tanks supported by excellent logistics defeat. Excellent tanks supported by collapsing logistics. Every time. When German tank crews laughed at Sherman design in 1942, they were looking at the wrong metrics. They saw thin armor and concluded inferiority. They should have seen production capacity and realized they'd already lost. By the time 49,234 Shermans rolled off American assembly lines, Germany's 7,800 best tanks couldn't possibly compete. The mathematics were simple, brutal, inescapable. Quantity became quality when backed by industrial might. And the Sherman, mocked as crude by German engineers, proved that sometimes good enough, reliable and numerous beats perfect, complicated and rare. That's what German tank crews learned the hard way. Usually in France, often at Eracourt, always too late.